Web3 and Me presented by FLOLiO. I'm your host, Jeremy Weber, and I am joined by my man out in the Netherlands, Dan Vondelok. Dan, all I can say about the last 24 hours of NFTs is wow. It
Yeah.
is an absolute shit show right now, and I am here for it. We're going to break down everything that's gone on with Azuki. Someone is getting pegged by UST. I don't know what that's all about. It has been a wild 24 hours. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. You know, every market's still bleeding, and well, we saw a slight recovery in ETH, and the 24-hour volume on most projects have been fairly decent. And then out of the blue comes this whole Azuki thing and the Zagabond thing down.
Yeah, it hasn't even been 24 hours since the Zagabond, debacle began. Before we jump into that, nothing we say today is financial advice. We're going to be recapping a lot of what's been going on. We may talk about some projects that could stand to benefit from this, but for the most part, it's just going to be kind of a recap and trying to keep everyone as calm as possible through this whole thing because things are nuts right now. So please hit that like button, subscribe, share if you would like to. So about 24, not even 24 hours ago, Zagabond, I guess you could call him the lead dev, the lead of Azuki, put out a tweet admitting or copping to the fact that he started 3 other projects that, if you want to call them rugs, you can. That's been a hot topic of conversation. The Funks, the Zunks, and Tendies. I don't know anything about Tendies, but it was a very shocking admission as someone who has not been a fan of the Funks project and a lot of people in that community. That was a warning sign to me right away. So I saw that about half an hour after he sent the tweet out. I jumped onto LooksRare and accepted the first collection offer I could find at the time because I just wanted to distance myself from the Azuki project, from the founders of it. If they were, there's no if they were involved, they were involved. So
Yeah.
that was my immediate take. Dan, what was your immediate, thoughts on it as soon as you saw that tweet come out in the article?
So it's funny. So I have the article pulled up and the tweet. Nothing really worth screen sharing, but I was like, I found it because someone else liked it or retweeted it on my like that I'm following. I was like reading through it. I was like, okay, yeah, like Azuki, okay, cool. So I opened up like the Mirror article. I never heard of Mirror either. I thought it was like a Medium article first, but um, I read through it and I was like, oh, they're talking about funks. I'm like, talk about funks. Like, what is this, right?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it's basically like an admission that they built the previous projects, and like you mentioned, people call it a rug, some people don't, but they did. It's basically a rug, right? So basically, they rugged the projects, or I think they rugged all 3 actually, but Zagabond's defense on the spaces was, yeah, we delivered everything we did, and yeah, that's it. You know. So on
So
the yeah.
let's take a step back before we get to the spaces because you listened to that whole thing. I'd like to get your opinion on it. I know you took notes as well. So we saw the article come out yesterday. We
Mm-hmm.
immediately saw price on Azuki begin to move. We saw this tug of war back and forth between funks and people who had owned Zunks before, who were
Yeah.
calling it, those projects rugs. We saw a lot of big name influencers like Dingaling, like Loopify, who immediately started talking, and not some of them seemed to come to the defense of Azuki, some of them did not. So it was really tough to tell who was doing it because they believed that they needed more information, or who was doing it to protect their own bags. I think that
Yeah.
that was really tough to decipher. So we saw the floor move from 18 down to like 10, and then it settled back around 15 or 16 overnight. And then the spaces began this morning. So let's jump into that part of it now, Dan. So
Mm-hmm.
you listened from the beginning. You heard everything Zagabond had to say. what was your initial impressions? How did you think the interview went?
The interview was a bit messy because Andrew is an amazing guy, and has quite a lot of followers. Like I think like 150,000, but they don't usually do this kind of stuff, as far as I'm
Hmm.
aware. And I feel like he tried to get answers right. So at the start of the spaces, he said, "I'm going to be asking some black and white questions, and I'm hoping to be receiving some black and white answers." So, in other words, asking a straightforward question and getting a straightforward answer in response. But what happened was, um, the questions that were asked were black and white, but the answers that we got, they were not. So a lot of questions were deflected, not answered, lied about, and yeah, it was pretty messy.
So, what were a few of the highlights, from the notes that you took? Were there any answers to questions that you thought gave, some decent insight into what has been going on, what might happen moving forward? Any thoughts there?
Moving forward, he said that they were going to be um, like rectifying the situation, whatever that means.
Hmm.
They said they'll be talking to the projects, their owners, or like the current like lead of the different projects. So Funk, Sunks, and Tendies. Although I think Tendies is just completely gone, because they removed all socials. Um, so yeah, that's basically what they said. They'll be talking to them, and I think Andrew tried to get some more like a more concrete answer whether or not they'll transfer the contract and the wallets back to the like real owners now. And in my opinion, there wasn't like a straight answer given by Zagabond. It was mainly just like, oh yeah, I'll engage in dialogue with them, right? Um, but that doesn't necessarily mean like a yeah or a no. So
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, I would say I jumped on at the very end and I heard Andrew talking. And, on one hand, I feel for him. Like, he seems like a really nice guy. This did not seem like it was in his wheelhouse. Like, he seems
hmm
like almost too nice of a person to really conduct this interview in the way that it needed to go. It seemed like it needed someone who was a little bit more, of a hard ass. That being said, when you jump in, because they announced this Twitter Spaces within like a few hours of that
yeah,
tweet coming out and all the reaction to it. So when you got like 14,000 people, to think at the peak of the Spaces, if I heard correctly, it was like 14,000 people
something
in
like
there, which
that. Yeah,
is
it's crazy.
absolutely insane. So, what do you think the fallout is going to be? Like I said, we've seen the floor go absolutely crazy right now.
hmm
Let's see, it's currently sitting at 9 ETH. The A ton of activity still. Like, I'm curious, what's with all like, are people just believing that this is going to blow over and that they're
Yeah,
comfortable putting, you know, tens of thousands of dollars into a project that may or may not survive this? Or are they banking on it being taken over by a better team? What are your thoughts there?
I think that people just think it's a good buy. They think it's gonna blow over and it's gonna recover because hey, we touched 30 ETH once. Honestly, if they don't properly address this and come forward with everything they've done, be fully transparent, I can see Azuki die. Like actually, there's no reason that Azuki shouldn't die because of this, right? People look at how people treat Beanie, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
compare Zagabond to Beanie. Like I think
Yeah.
what Zagabond is doing is arguably worse than what Beanie's has done in the past.
Yeah.
And
Same as Cole. I mean, we've seen people do this in the past.
yeah,
I don't know if any of those other projects, and this is like kind of showing some of the ugly side of NFTs, is like people have so much invested in this. There's so many big holders of Azuki, and I understand where they're coming from. Like, it's a tough time financially for a lot of people.
yeah,
The markets are nuts. There's a lot of uncertainty. People are scared. Man, like, there's, like you said, there's not much different than what he's done to uh, what Beanie has done, what Cole did with my fucking pickle and Pudgy Penguins. I mean, it's been pretty rough. So, I gotta agree with you there. We don't know if this is verified or not, but there are rumors that Azuki moved 8,000 ETH to a different wallet. Dan brought the transaction up. The process started like 3.5 hours ago, so before the spaces began. But still, that's still a pretty tough look if that turns out to be true. Me personally, like I said, I no longer own any Azuki. I sold my beans over the weekend before any of this was even brought to light, and I sold. We do have someone else who said 8. Wow. Okay, so if this is true, we once again still not confirmed, but that's pretty bad.
Yeah. So we saw like the transactions, but when I looked at like the address and where it came from and stuff, it didn't look like the Azuki wallet to me. But maybe there's some specific wallet they have that's separate from their contract. Like I didn't do any deep dives. All I saw was some people saying, "Oh hey, look, they moved like 8,000 ETH," and then no like not like a good post about it saying, it came from this and then went to there and then went to there. But yeah, like for now it's just rumors. But yeah, I wonder if it is true, if it is actually them, then it's rough. Because yeah, it
Yeah.
started 3 hours ago, but I think like 6,000 of that was after the spaces. If it's true,
I think.
like
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of people dive into this. We have some
yeah,
really good people in the spaces. Zach XBT is a
yeah,
great person to follow. He
legend.
does a lot of really quality investigative work. So I would say give him a follow. We'll send out anything that we see him tweet out because he usually provides very concrete evidence to everything that he brings up. So, we've seen this floor go up and down. We've started to see, I saw Lupify tweet out before the show that, he listened to it. He, is not defending the project anymore. Like he's heard, sounds
Hmm.
like he's heard enough to make his, his feelings known on it. You have a lot of other big bag holders who are starting to come to that conclusion too. So it's very possible that we see this thing, dump way down. I know
Yeah,
Andrew said that he's holding his Azuki and his beans. He's locking them up for like 6 months to try to be,
yeah,
as unbiased as
unbiased.
possible,
Yeah,
which I think is that's a good, that's a good gesture on his part. But yeah, it is. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen in the last year and a
yeah.
half that I've been involved in NFTs.
It's like what if this one project that we all considered like a blue chip, right, here to stay, quote unquote blue chip,
Yeah.
suddenly reveals that they got a nasty past, because we don't know how many Azuki devs are linked to those different projects. We
Hmm.
don't know anything, right? All we know
No.
is, at least all I know is that it's a Vagabond, but then they there was a woman talking in the spaces. I forgot her name, and she's head of growth on Azuki, but I think she was also related to one of the different projects. So
So let's touch on real quick because another thing that people were really upset about was the fact that allegedly
OX Mandy.
Zagabond had used, yes, a Twitter account called OX Mandy, pretended to be a female to get help, creating the contract. Was it for Funks?
Yeah, I think it's for Funks. I think Agnes knows a little bit more about it because
Okay.
we looked at it together. Um, and I'm a little bit lost in where OX Mendy begins and where Zagabond's characters end, because a lot of the talk in the spaces was talking about how Zagabond is using like characters
Hmm.
because he likes having like different characters to like storytell. Um, but from what I can see, a lot of people are saying that the character that he's like portraying goes far beyond like a character, but seriously like a person, right? Like they're actually like impersonating someone or like a fake character, to actually pretend that they're real. That's what people are saying at least.
So one of the people who I saw that was kind of live tweeting updates mentioned that in the space, Zagabond said that the entire team was using this OX Mandy account when they were creating CryptoFunks. Is that what you heard,
Mm.
Dan?
I'm unsure.
Okay. Okay. So, that's one piece of it as well is, this impersonation of somebody trying to be deceitful. It's really bad. To me, the only way that Azuki can be saved is if the project is handed off to like a well-respected, like doxed team. Like, you know, I I don't know if this would ever happen, but if someone like Kevin Rose came along and used the money that they bought from Moonbirds to like buy out Azuki, I think that's probably the best case scenario for them. I don't think you should go to someone like Yuga. Like, I think that's a big mistake. Let's bring up what Agnes just said here. So he did say it was a team account. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
RP is
So
yeah, like role play. Yeah.
yeah, and Liz was a woman, so it shouldn't be an issue. I mean, just because you say it shouldn't be an issue doesn't mean it's not going to be an issue, right? So Agnes, appreciate you dropping that in there. Something I brought up on Twitter last night that I got a lot of like mixed reviews on was like the thought of, is this like the death of anon projects that can
Uh-huh.
become big? Like, do we feel Kivazuki to the end? Kivazuki to the NFT lords? Blaze, I think that's a great idea. I don't trust myself to do it, but I think you should run with it, buddy. So, do we think that anons can run big projects moving forward, or is this another nail in that coffin?
It's it's a hard topic, right? I do think that being anonymous and having a successful project is definitely possible. But I think it all comes down to the initial hype, right? Like the initial pump or like the initial respect you have, well, like
Mm-hmm.
the initial respect people have in a project. I think that if you're anonymous and you're starting a project versus if you're like docs and starting a project, I think the success rate is like way lower if you're anonymous, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's mainly it. I think we will continue seeing big anonymous projects, but I think that after this, I think people are, they will still prefer docs like projects for sure, or people at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. I think anonymous teams are only going to be able to get so far, especially as NFTs get more mainstream adoption.
Yeah.
Like, I tell people that I bought an NFT and I have no idea who the person running it is, and they're just like, "Are you out of your goddamn mind?" And only people who are pretty deep into crypto will be cool with you know anonymous teams running these projects. I think a project that goes for mainstream adoption is going to have to be doxed. We saw BAYC eventually have to be doxed after the BuzzFeed article.
Yeah, that was something as well.
One response that didn't make any sense to me was someone was like, "Well, if someone had an unsuccessful startup, would you?" And they probably wouldn't share that either. And I'm just like, yeah, but you could also do your due diligence on that individual person. Like, coming into it, if all you knew was that this person's name was Zagabond, there was no other information to find out about him. Like, do we even know that he actually worked for Facebook, or that any of these other people on the team like actually did any of these things that they said? Like,
Yeah, the Y Combinator
until
stuff a lot, right?
yeah, there's people who said they worked at Google, Y
Yeah.
Combinator. We can't verify any of that when they're anonymous. Which, if that's their choice, fine. But at the same time, that's going to impact whether or not people jump in. And this, like I said, this could have been the straw that broke the camel's back as far as these anonymous founders being able to create, big projects.
Yeah, but
I
it's
think
just
it's
like all of these 3D rug projects, they have the same thing in common, right? It's always something in their bio being like, oh, made by X Marvel artists or, you
yeah,
know, X Disney team. But it doesn't carry any weight if they're not doxed, you know?
yeah, yeah. So, as we're going to bring up another one of Agnes is just honest today. We probably should have had her on the show with us, to be quite honest with you.
We should,
Um,
honestly.
there's been a lot of fallout and a lot of activity. So this is something that I think is funny. A lot of people were blaming Yuga for pulling a ton of liquidity out of the market, and rightfully so. That was a disaster. I'm not going to try to get it twisted, but all of a sudden, all of this Ethereum is available for people to be buying and selling Azukis like crazy. Like, it's been pretty. That's been pretty wild to see how much activity there. But we've seen, I'm gonna pull up the FLOLiO site real quick. We've got like 15,000 ETH traded in Azuki in the last 24 hours, 1,046 sales. We've seen Beans have 1,594 sales, 3,500 ETH traded. Now we're seeing projects like Pixin, like Kiwami, these other, anime projects starting to get pumped up because there's so much speculation on, the downfall of Azuki and what anime project is going to take its place. Because I think
Yeah.
everyone can agree that there will be, a couple really successful anime projects, especially as NFTs become more mainstream in Asia. So, Dan, what are your thoughts on that? Where do you feel like the best bet to make there is, or are you just kind of avoiding that and watching things play out over the coming days and weeks?
Yeah. I mean, even anime in like the Western world is incredibly large. Like it's so big,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, like Azuki is the very first anime or like successful anime project, as far as I am concerned, that has like maintained like a prolonged status of high floor. Like
Yeah.
it's. I think that so many people right now are just playing the guessing game of hey, if Azuki goes like to zero, then what project's going to like take its place? And then they look for the second biggest thing. And I think Pixin is like a decent bet for people who do want to take the bet, because from what they show, their art was very nice. Like it looked really
Mm-hmm.
really good. I think that that's just what people are going off of. And like Agnes is saying,
Yeah.
they only did great. Yeah, they went to 7 ETH, but then they rocked their own project as well. So maybe it's
Yeah.
we're seeing a common thread among these anime projects. It seems.
Yeah. It's has Pixin said when they're going to reveal? Because this is an issue I always have is when projects are super hype pre-reveal and they like draw that out.
I think I'm unsure, but I I saw some like troll posts by their own team saying like if there's ever gonna be a reveal or like so I'm not sure.
Listen,
I'm
if
not
the
sure.
current, I mean, if this project ends up rugging, that might be, we might just have to call it. I mean, they already have 23.5 thousand ETH traded in secondary volume, and they haven't even revealed yet. Um,
Yeah,
that's something that I feel like they should probably get around to revealing. Their creator fee is 5%. That's
it's fun.
reasonable to me. Like if it was like a
Mm.
10%, I'd be like, oh shit, this is gonna be a big problem. But still, I mean, that's a lot of money they have made from secondary sales and from the minting. Because I mean, they minted out at like what, 2 ETH?
Pixel. Yeah, yeah, it was 2 ETH. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I know it's attached to Nanoverse. I don't know a ton about that one. Was there like a whitelist spot, Agnes? I'm just gonna be asking you questions. Agnes, you just let us know if there were like 2 ETH Dutch auction. Yes, okay. Agnes, were there any spots their website constantly crashed? That's not good. Okay. We'll just give Agnes her own show on the FLOLiO channel, I
On a
think.
section of the show. No.
So yeah, we see a lot of projects benefiting from this. We've also seen the floor go up on things like Clone X and Doodles and Mutant Apes. I think a lot of people are taking their money out of this and running to what they believe are more secure projects, which at this point, I guess that's the case.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's been my play for quite some time. I mean, like lately, like as I've spent more time in this space, I just want I want my ETH to sit in my high conviction long term place and not like constantly be like looking around my bag, be like, oh god, who's rugging me now?
Yeah.
Oh god, who's part of the Funks team now? Like it's just yeah. So I got my bags packed, and I think people are starting to do more and more of the same behavior. Just I think because I hope we're not gonna see like a huge like top heavy market where it's just like the quote unquote blue chips, and then the rest is just like the trash. Like the $10 floor projects, and then it's like about the 100 ETH floor. So I
Well,
do hope we're going to see like an even spread of like mid range and high range projects.
I think there's also a chance that if when things get worse, because we're seeing a little bounce back, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better long term. I think that plays itself to the really top tier projects holding on okay, but also an opportunity for lower tier projects to enter but stay at that lower price point. Like
Hmm.
back, a year and a half ago or a year ago when Bored Apes minted out for 0.08, like it was unheard of to have a 2 ETH Dutch auction for a brand new project at that point,
Yeah,
right?
it's wild.
So like if we go into a bear market, teams are going to have to, come out at a cheaper price point if they want to mint out. They're going to have to prove themselves, and I think that's going to give a whole new, group of projects an opportunity to grow in this space and do it in the right way. Because like when you're just playing the everything goes up pre-reveal and then dump post-reveal, like that's not sustainable at all.
Hmm.
Like people are going to get dumped on, people are going to be left holding the bag. So I think we're going to shake out, and rightfully so, a lot of bad actors in the space, a lot of people who have scammed a lot. Um, you know, maybe people just like this Azuki team or other projects, but I think there's going to be some short-term pain. I don't know how short of a term, but in the long run, it's necessary, right?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta get rid of all the nasty people. Like it doesn't really get any simpler than that. I just Azuki is right now it's stained. Like there's a very like bad like stuff hanging around Azuki. So gotta
It's
find
got bad juju right now.
yeah bad juju. Yeah, huge bad juju. Like they have to do something. They have to do I don't know like a show or something. Like unveil the shroud of mystery around their
It has
rugging
to move.
practices.
It's got to move to a new team. Like it has, like I said earlier, it has to move to a new
Yeah,
dots
I mean,
team. In my opinion, like that's the only way I would feel comfortable buying back in. Like I
yeah,
wouldn't. I'm not going to reinvest in that with the current team, or if they pass it off to another anonymous team. Like
yeah,
they've lost all trust,
yeah,
at least in people who aren't like blinded by their bags, and I think that they need to do a lot. You know, it's just rug design. I
yeah.
mean, if they put out a line of Azuki rugs, that would be just the ultimate troll move.
It would be a great
I
like
might
exit
buy
scam,
one
right?
just because yes, I might buy one just because it's like
Yeah, fuck
for
it,
the
honestly.
laugh of it. I mean, they probably wouldn't actually send them out; they would just collect the money and tornado cash it. But still, it'd be pretty funny.
Yeah. Dickens, as we touched on the 8,000 ETH thing earlier, but mainly it's just like I haven't been able to verify whether or not it's like true that it's actually their wallet. But I did see the funds being moved. And if it's true and it's their wallet, then goddamn, they need to have some year-long plan of like like cleansing their name. And for me about investing in their project. Like if the only way for me to feel comfortable is if I know exactly who was part of the other projects that actually like rugged, and like who is not like who on the Azuki team is not even close to being connected with the other like projects. Like I need to have like a fresh fresh people in there, good people, not like funk people, like rug people. I mean, sorry, the Poly. The only thing I saw with Poly is that he's out here doxing people, and whether or not that's a good idea, I'm not sure. In general, it's bad. It's pretty bad, but you know, I the scary part about doxing is that if something bad happens to them, you're partly to blame. So it's kind of scary.
Man, it is getting it's ugly out here right now. It's the drama. I mean, this is like the best soap opera in the world right now.
Oh yeah,
I don't even. I mean, the world is the world is burning and we're just sitting over here in our little bubble looking at, you know, apes and anime PFPs. Like, it's pretty insane.
Yeah, Degentis, are you referring to me saying that I'm hoping for like transparency on their side? Because if you are, it's just we'll have the market decide, right? Like it's if they don't talk about it, if they're just like, well, we're just gonna pretend like this never happened. I'm like for sure, like I'm assuming and I'm hoping that every Azuki holder like thinks of the stuff that's happened, and then they decide whether or not to buy or sell. Because for sure, I think there's so many people right now that just don't want to buy Azuki just because of everything that's around it, and like you can't trust, and like you can't trust the project right now, right? And something I mentioned to JWeb earlier is that a lot of people that are selling right now, they might have been pretty high conviction holders up until this moment, and the people that are entering right now might be like people who are just looking for a flip, so they might be pretty low conviction holders. So in general, I think this is just like very like bad for their project in terms of like conviction levels.
Oh man, doxing as a founder in the current space. Yeah, I think there are. I know the big reason that people give for staying, anonymous is like safety, but
It's
I mean, at
overblown,
the same
honestly, right?
time, it's overblown. You can take precautions. How many incredibly rich people are there in the world that we know of who don't, it's if you're out there giving out your home address to everyone, yeah, that's probably, not the smartest thing in the world to do, but you can take precautions to keep yourself safe if that's something you're worried about. Um, we saw it in the past, like with crypto, whales, their issues, like people got kidnapped, stuff like that. But I think for the most part, it's overblown, and you can only expect your project to go so far if you're staying anonymous.
Yeah, it's funny when I was young, or like younger. Uh,
Dan, you still are young.
I feel pretty old. I
I
feel pretty
mean, this
old.
last year in NFTs has aged you like eight,
That's true.
but still.
Definitely, definitely. When I was like I don't know, like 8 or something, I was in my bed and I was thinking to myself like, man, I never want to be famous, cause I'll be killed, man. Like,
Wow.
so I
Now we're
think that's
getting into Dan. We don't need to know what you did in
it's
your
it's
childhood
like a
then
therapy
growing up.
session.
Okay, it's
Oh
like
no
a
no,
therapy
I'm a
session.
good guy. I promise. Uh, but yeah, I think so many people who don't want to be doxxed is more that they don't want all the responsibility on to rest on their shoulders,
Yeah.
just in case something goes south and they're like held accountable, right? Like they don't want to be accountable. It feels like to me, if they're really committed and they really want to push the project as far as it can go, I think they have to be doxxed, honestly.
Yeah, I will say that this doesn't apply to Zagabond in my opinion, but the expectations on, creators in this space has gotten pretty ridiculous as far as how quickly people want things. Like,
Yeah, for
quite
sure.
honestly, if you believe in a project, if you mint it and you're in it for the long run, just like don't look at the floor price for the next 3 to 6 months and just like let them
Yeah,
do their thing. Like it really is that tough right now. And I can understand people not wanting to get harassed because they're trying to build a project and the current expectations of NFT collectors right now are just completely skewed because, at any given moment, some project is going up and they're just like, well, why isn't my project going up? So I'm going to go give
yeah,
shit to the team behind it, which is not okay. Like that's just people need to get their heads out of their asses there. Um, but yeah, I think clearly you and I have no problem being docked. So I don't see why more teams aren't going to do it. Like the true diehard, decentralized Web3 people are going to always push back on that. But, you know, it, and if you don't want Web3 to get like mainstream adoption, it's kind of inevitable, but more people are going to come in like old Mark Zuckerberg and his metaverse. And you're going to have to, dox yourself if you want things to get big. So
Yeah, but I just think like I mean at some point projects are going to be so big that like let's just use Nike as an example, right? When you buy something Nike, you don't think like, oh, who is the founder of Nike? Like, do I really want to buy this? It's
yeah,
just like at some point projects are going to be so big that they might reach that point. But like I can see it already happening kind of with like Yuga, for example,
hmm
the other side. So I think for the other side, I think there's so many people that just buy it because it's Yuga and not because, oh, this dev on Yuga, like who are you, But
yeah,
in general, I think like it's so much like bound to growth and community sentiment. The fact that they know you're a real human being, right? So it's interesting because for Wolfgame, for example, they aren't doxed. They also use this one person called the Shepherd, which is like a collective shared account between every employee within their like company. I think that they could still dox and still uphold this, like the great shepherd type vibe to them. So I
yeah.
think that you know so many of these projects that hide behind this mysterious character, I think they can still do that while they're docs. Just have it as like a specific shared account and like be consistent in writing and stuff.
Yep. Oh, yeah, it's there's no easy solution to it. This is part of the growing pains of, when everyone says we're so early, this comes with the territory of being early, is shaking out situations like this and
Yeah,
trying to navigate a brand new market and a whole new set of problems that people have never, experienced to this extent.
yeah,
Like there have been rugs in the past, and I'm not calling this a rug yet, but you know, this is the largest scale project we've ever seen have issues like this
yeah,
by
by
a
far.
by a wide margin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like we've never had a situation where someone on the team is like, well, we've had Agnes knows. Agnes always knows. It's the Starcatcher person, There's someone on
hmm
their team who rugged, and they had like another project and they also rugged. They did get booted out as far as I know, but it has an effect on the project, man. Yeah, it's
hmm
Butrick. There you go. Agnes always knows.
And I mean, that's the problem. Going back to the anonymous stuff, is like Zagabond. Even if he does leave, there's no stopping him from starting another project under a whole new persona. Like that's just kind of where we're at with things, and we have to accept that and continue to hold people accountable.
Yeah, and that brings up the question that Agnes is asking right now. Like, is he committing a felony or a crime? Like, I'm not sure what the difference is. I'm not American. Please don't shoot me. I like, yeah. I mean, if he runs from Azuki, I don't know. I don't know if you could like put him on trial, because I think it's hard, right? Because the stuff that they got time for in jail is that they promised a whole lot of stuff and then ended up not like following up on those. And if you're part of a team and the statements that are made by your team isn't like fully by yourself, then I guess there might be some like difference in that. Um, I don't know. I just hope people stop rugging, please. Think of the children.
Think of the children. Yeah, Dan, always think of the children. All right, so I think that about covers. We've covered Azuki for about almost 40 minutes now. Um, Other than that, market is all over the place. Like we saw, a little bit of a downturn with everything else going on. We're seeing money moving around with this Azuki news. We're still waiting on news from the other side. We had interviews last week, so we haven't talked too much about that. But we've seen other side, prices take a big pullback.
Yeah.
One of the theories I keep hearing and I don't know how you feel about this, Dan, is that the reason we haven't heard anything from Yuga is that they are waiting for the claim window to close for mutant and ape holders, because that could, we've heard, if you haven't heard of the Howey test, that's something that everyone is an expert in now, because that's how securities are defined. But that's one of the beliefs, is that, they can't say anything until the claim window is open, because that would then, influence the market. I don't know how true that is, but I'm hoping we hear something from Yuga, relatively soon.
When does the window close?
It was a 21-day claim window. So the claim process opened up, the Saturday night, Saturday the 30th of April. So we have another week and a half before that claim window closes.
Well, I mean, it's a long window. Is
Yeah.
there a reason why they couldn't just do 1 week?
I mean, they wanted to give people time. Like, if people are traveling and they're not near their ledger, stuff like that. It's right around also the time that the ApeCoin claim window is closing. So all of that's happening pretty close. So a lot could still happen there. We've still seen a lot of activity on it. Prices have gone down. It also extends the mystery. I'm ready for the mystery to be over. I would like to know more about, what is going on. We've seen, obviously, apes and mutants get absolutely wrecked from a floor price standpoint, which I wasn't too surprised about that.
Yeah.
I was around for mutants when they pulled back greater than 50%, so this wasn't shocking.
Yeah.
I feel for the people who bought ApeCoin just for this, and then they couldn't even mint one, and now ApeCoin is at a third of the price that they bought it at.
$9,
That's really, yeah, that's not great. That's not great. I mean, it's everything else is down too. So,
I mean,
but yeah,
it presents a good opportunity, right?
Yeah, I mean, being the rube that I am, I went and bought some more the other day when it was down at 13.20, and I'm just like, we'll see where this goes, and it just kept going down. So, I expect that once we get more news from Yuga, I'm still banking on there being an in-game marketplace that uses ApeCoin, and that's going to be the main place where codas and other artifacts and resources are transacted. So I think there's still plenty of potential there. But yeah, anything else we want to talk about going on in the market right now, Dan?
I can't think of anything in particular.
What are you doing right now? Do you have any ETH that you're looking to deploy, or are you just kind of, because this seems like a buying opportunity to me. I just don't know. I'm kind of paralyzed as far as what to do at the moment. I see World of Women still at a low price. I still have faith in that long term. I'm on the fence about whether or not I want to buy a CloneX, because their partnership with Nike gives me a ton of confidence that they're going to be successful long term. I have some ETH freed up now from selling that Azuki, so I kind of want to put it somewhere, but I'm not totally sure where I want it to go right now.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. My bags are packed in a way where it's high conviction long term, but I don't have too much ETH to play around with right now. If I were to have to sell one project to mint another or something, I would be selling a high conviction long term project, and it doesn't feel good to me. So yeah, right now I'm just I have half an ETH or an ETH left of just play money, essentially, just money that I can throw at mints and see what happens. But other than that, there's nothing right now that particularly catches my eye. Especially now, this is not really the time to be minting new projects, honestly.
Yeah.
So I'm just sitting tight.
So let's talk about Doodles real quick, because they've had a pretty solid week. They announced that they have a new CEO. The CEO from Billboard Music is coming over to be the CEO for Doodles, which, seeing big names from traditional business, Web2, whatever you want to say, moving into Web3 and the NFT world is probably a bullish indicator long term. And they also announced that they're going to be doing their duplicator airdrop this coming Thursday. They haven't said what exactly the duplicator is. There is a little video of it on the Doodles website. I'm going to pull that up real quick, or a little GIF of what they're doing here. Do you have any thoughts on what that might be?
Yeah, it's Doodles but flipped, like funks.
I was gonna say, do you think it's just they're facing the other way?
There you go, man. It's the Foodles.
Yeah. So like, this is the duplicator. I don't know. It looks like, my kid was an IVF baby. It looks like a little test tube that like my son originally came from. One theory I've heard that I think is pretty interesting is you can use it on other NFTs to like doodleize them, if you
Oh
will.
yeah, like a
That could.
what's it called? The bet, the crypto bets or something. Do
Oh
you
yeah, yeah,
remember
yeah.
how they
The
could like
the
buy?
the Ozzy
Whatever
Osbourne
happened
one.
to
Yeah.
whatever happened to that project anyway?
I don't know. Why don't
Was
you
it
look that up real quick?
what's it called? Crypto bet or something? Crypto bet? Yeah, crypto
Yeah,
bets by
crypto
Ozzy
bats.
Osbourne.
Yep.
Point 14 floor.
Yeah, we called that one as being another celebrity cash grab, and as far as I know, that is the case.
Yeah, well that's a shocker.
Yeah, who would have thought? So yeah, the duplicator.
Exactly.
That's another place where I think is Doodles going to step up and fill the Azuki void, because Azuki was you know ahead of Doodles in the overall like kind of NFT power rankings, if you will. This
Yeah.
obviously sends Azuki way down. Does Doodles step into that role now as one of the bigger challengers to Yuga, to the Bored Ape Yacht Club? Because I think as recently as last week, I was in a group chat and someone asked like, "Hey, who do you guys think could realistically, pull ahead of Bored Ape Yacht Club?" And my thought was Azuki at that time, but obviously that has changed.
Yeah.
So could Doodle seems to have a pretty, they have a doxed team, they have a new CEO who's been very successful in business. They have art that I'm not, it doesn't really appeal to me, but overall has a mass appeal to it. The colorfulness of it, the cuteness of
Mhm.
it. They've put on IRL events at South by Southwest that were incredibly well
Yeah.
received.
Yeah.
So I think that, if Yuga has another slip up with Other Side or with anything else BAYC related, and Doodles duplicator goes well, I could absolutely see a world where Doodles catches up to Bored Ape Yacht Club. I think it would take, like I said, a big mess up on Yuga's part and a big win on Doodles' part, but it's totally possible.
Yeah. I wonder. I think it's funny. How many past failures does the Billboard CEO have? We must find out fast. Probably rocked a few old companies. But yeah, talk about like the Billboard CEO and like Web2 CEOs in general. I think it's like you said, definitely a bullish indicator. And lack of guidance is like such a big thing in the NFT world right now. And but I wonder if the Web2 like huge CEOs of like like Billboard or whatever, like I don't know, McDonald's or something. I wonder like how much or how many of them are like got so big by sheer luck.
Yeah.
I just
I
want to,
think,
and then they move.
we've seen with Yuga bringing on Guy Osiri to be their advisor. We'll see how that plays out. Agnes saying, "Don't let Steve buy a doodle." If you
The
don't know,
Grim
she's
Reaper.
into Steve Aoki, the NFT Grim Reaper who buys every project at the top. I'm pretty sure Steve already bought a doodle. That could be another sign that they're gonna become
Oh,
great. Is if they can withstand Steve Aoki buying them at a local top, the sky's
that's
the
the real
limit for
test.
doodles, man. That is the test. I mean, Steve owns like 7 or 8 Bored Apes, so we know Bored Apes are going to survive. But man, yeah, I think with a lot of the Web2, CEOs and VCs getting involved, like there has to be this mix of like them advising the teams on how to grow, how to scale up without pulling them into some of the trappings of traditional businesses that people hate and that go against the decentralized ethos that people want to be a part of. I think
Yeah.
there's like you're walking a really thin line, a really tight, like a pretty big tightrope there of trying to make that work. And I think a few teams will execute on it and they'll become something special. But I think even more, are going to get pulled in too many directions, and it could lead to some poor decision making. And that is one of my concerns with Yuga right now. Is like the other side drop didn't go well. The communication after it has been, an F if we're giving it a grade. Like, it has me concerned. Like, I'm looking back, and I had considered selling some Bored Ape stuff before other side, and I'm just like, should have just followed my gut and pulled the trigger on that one, but I didn't,
Yeah.
and we'll see how it plays out.
And the question still remains like how much you guys actually involved in the other side and how much Animoca is. Because if it's primarily Animoca, then I feel like they're kind of writing off you guys' name.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We might be seeing some more sketchy things if that's actually true, but I guess we will never know.
Oh, Dan, don't you worry. I'm ready to flood my own bags. I've done it before.
I
I'll
know
do
you
it
are. I
again,
know.
buddy.
I know. Yeah. Nah. I know you're not like shrouded by your bags or something.
Yeah, I do my best to look at it from a logical place of like,
Yeah.
yeah, do I have a big holding in Bored Ape Yacht Club for sure, but I also want to make sure that we move the space forward in a transparent way.
Yeah.
So
Like I remember you tweeting when you minted your other side. You were like, "Yeah, I got land. Like, let's go." And then I think you like woke up the day after and you were like, and you tweeted like, "Well, that was a mess."
yeah,
That was a shit
I
show.
mean, I was very upset with how it, in hindsight, like, because when I first got it and I tweeted that out, like the "Let's go," I didn't realize how many people got totally wrecked. Um, and
Yeah.
then also seeing, like, when I saw their communications the night of, I was like, I need to go to bed. Like, I can't talk about this right now. It was really
Yeah.
ugly.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we'll see what happens, man. It's strange days indeed, but yeah, I think I'm going to keep my eye out for some deals. I'm hoping we maybe see stuff pull back a little bit more and I can jump in. Like, I was considering for a while there, it looked like I was going to be able to get like a Clone X and a Monolith for like 15 ETH, which would have been a huge pickup, but it doesn't seem like that's the case any longer. So yeah, I think we are going to leave it there for today. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Head over to FLOLiO.com, check your portfolio holdings. May not be the number you want to see right now, but knowing is half the battle. Agnes, God, she's just killing it today. Agnes, probably the best host of the show today, so thank you for that. We appreciate it. Like I said, head over to FLOLiO, link your account, download the browser extension. Right now, let's talk about that for a second. If you're going shopping on OpenSea for some deals, you need to be using the browser extension. It has the rarity rankings built into it. If a project has trait floor evaluations, it has that built into it as well. I've been looking at, Meta Hero and some other stuff as possible buys, and I'm using our browser extension for that. So download it for free, FLOLiO.com. Link your account for free. You don't need to link your wallet. You can just copy and paste. See all that good information. Once again, like and subscribe, share, follow us on Twitter, all that good stuff. Really appreciate everyone being here today. For Dan, for the entire team at FLOLiO. Stay safe out there, everybody. Try to remember that, this is meant to be fun. Don't take it too seriously, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.